Have you noticed that we live in a paradox? On one hand, our species has decoded the genome, split the atom, walked on the moon, and launched telescopes that can peer across 13 billion years of cosmic history. Yet, on the other hand, loneliness is at an all-time high. In an age when we can connect to anyone, anywhere, instantly, many of us struggle to truly connect with someone deeply, meaningfully, soulfully. How strange that a civilization capable of building artificial intelligence struggles to master the oldest intelligence of all, the intelligence of the heart. This paradox invites a question, not a mystical one, but a deeply human one. What does it mean to find a connection so profound that it feels written not just in the chemistry of attraction, but in the very fabric of the universe? People call this idea many things: destiny, soulmates, twin flames, or twin souls. Scientists might scoff at those words, calling them mystical fluff. But if you strip away the labels, what you're really talking about is one of the most scientifically verifiable forces in the cosmos: resonance. In physics, resonance occurs when two systems vibrate at the same frequency, amplifying each other's energy. When a singer's voice shatters glass, that's resonance. When two stars orbit a common center of gravity in perfect harmony, that's resonance. When your heart races because you've just locked eyes with someone who seems to know you before you even speak, that's also resonance, just in human form. So perhaps the twin soul is less about mysticism and more about physics, less about destiny written in the stars, and more about the natural laws that govern stars themselves. Now imagine this. Somewhere in the universe, a neutron star spins 700 times per second. It emits a beam of radiation, like a lighthouse, that sweeps across the cosmos. Billions of years away, another neutron star spins with nearly the same rhythm. When their beams align, when their pulses synchronize, it creates a cosmic duet so powerful that our telescopes on Earth can detect their heartbeat. Two stars, across unthinkable gulfs of space, speaking to each other in rhythm. If nature does this with stars, is it really so far-fetched to imagine that humans, built from stardust, might also fall into rhythm with one another? That is the essence of the twin soul. Not a fantasy, not a fairy tale, but a reflection of what happens whenever two entities, atoms, stars, or people, find themselves in resonance. Now, let's talk about the first enigmatic sign of such a connection. It begins with synchronicity. You've experienced it. Maybe you thought of someone, and they called you moments later. Maybe you kept encountering the same book, the same number, the same song, until you couldn't dismiss it as coincidence. Scientists, of course, will tell you this is confirmation bias, that your brain is wired to find patterns even in randomness. And that's true. But here's the thing. The brain's ability to find patterns is not a flaw. It's our greatest evolutionary asset. Without pattern recognition, we would never have learned to track the stars, plant crops, predict the seasons, or navigate oceans. So when your brain lights up at these so-called coincidences, maybe it isn't fooling you. Maybe it's alerting you to an underlying rhythm, a hidden geometry of connection. Think of it like quantum entanglement. Two particles, once connected, behave as though they are still linked even when separated by vast distances. Measure the spin of one particle, and the other responds instantaneously faster than light, faster than causality, as we understand it. Einstein famously called it spooky action at a distance. Yet it is one of the most rigorously tested truths in modern physics. Now imagine if human beings, bound together by shared experience, shared emotion, or perhaps even shared biology, carry a trace of entanglement too. Perhaps when you think of someone and they think of you, it's not woo-woo nonsense. It's resonance across the invisible threads that bind us all. The second sign unfolds not in waking life, but in dreams. Dreams are not just random movies your brain plays at night. Neuroscience tells us that dreams are rehearsals for survival, simulations where your mind tests scenarios, solves problems, and processes emotions. But sometimes, dreams carry a weight that feels different, like a message or a meeting. You wake up not refreshed, but shaken, moved, haunted by an encounter that felt more real than reality itself. Now, imagine this. Every night as you sleep, your brain generates electrical waves that ripple across billions of neurons. In some sense, the dreamscape is the most advanced virtual reality simulator in existence, running every night in the theater of your mind. But here's the kicker. In labs around the world, scientists are finding that brain waves can synchronize, place two people in the same room, and their brain rhythms can align heartbeat, breathing, even neural oscillations. So what happens if that alignment extends into the dream world? Could two people profoundly connected share overlapping dream states? Could the unconscious itself be a meeting ground? If so, then those vivid dreams of your twin soul are not illusions. They are testaments to the brain's extraordinary ability to bridge inner and outer worlds, to take the language of neurons and translate it into the poetry of human connection. And so we come to the third sign, telepathy, or at least something like it. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that people can beam fully formed sentences into each other's skulls, like in a science fiction novel. But science has shown, time and again, that emotions are contagious. Put one anxious person in a room, and the whole room becomes tense. Put one laughing person in a crowd, and the laughter spreads like wildfire. In neuroscience, they call this mirror neurons. When you see someone smile, your brain activates the same regions as if you were smiling yourself. You literally mirror their state. So when two people are deeply connected, when they've spent enough time entangled in each other's emotional orbit, it shouldn't surprise us that they can sense what the other is feeling even before a word is spoken. Call it telepathy if you like. I call it empathy operating at the speed of thought. But the most powerful sign comes not from dreams or thoughts, but from energy itself. Now, I don't mean energy in the vague sense of vibes or auras. I mean energy in the strictest scientific sense, the capacity to do work. Every cell in your body runs on energy. Every heartbeat, every neural spark, every breath you take is an exchange of energy between you and the cosmos. When you meet someone who feels like a twin soul, you know it because your energy changes, your metabolism quickens, your dopamine spikes, your oxytocin, the bonding hormone, flows. This is not fantasy. This is chemistry. This is biology. And yet it feels like magic because at Island. It is the magic of being a 100 trillion cell organism whose atoms were forged in ancient stars, suddenly finding another organism whose atoms hum at a frequency that amplifies yours. That surge you feel when they walk into the room, that is physics, chemistry, and cosmic poetry colliding in the theater of your body. And the signs continue, unfolding like chapters in a story written across both the sky and the human heart. But notice something. Every so-called mystical sign has a scientific counterpart. Synchronicity reflects pattern recognition and entanglement. Dream meetings reflect the synchronization of neural states. Telepathy reflects empathy and mirror neurons. Energy shifts reflect biochemistry and resonance. Science doesn't destroy the poetry of the twin soul, it enhances it. Because it shows us that these connections are not just fairy tales, but echoes of the same principles that shape galaxies, atoms, and the space between. So here is the paradox once again. We are a species that has mapped the DNA of life, but we are still learning how to map the DNA of love. We can predict the orbit of a planet centuries in advance, but we cannot predict when someone will walk into our lives and change everything. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the beauty of the twin soul is that it sits at the edge of what science can explain, in that twilight zone where data ends and wonder begins. Because if science has taught us anything, it is that mystery is not the enemy of knowledge, it is the fuel of discovery. Now, let's follow the trail where this journey naturally leads. If resonance, dreams, and energy shifts are the first movements of this symphony, then the next sign is one of magnetism. You know the feeling. You walk into a crowded room filled with dozens, maybe hundreds of people. Some faces are familiar, some are strangers. And then, without warning, your attention locks on one person. It isn't logic, it isn't preference, it's magnetism. Now, in physics, magnets don't decide whom to attract. They align because their fields demand it. A North Pole seeks a South Pole, not because it's romantic, but because the universe insists on balance. Electrons cling to protons, not because they're lonely, but because their charges dictate it. So why should it surprise us that human beings walking bundles of electrical impulses, electromagnetic fields, and biochemical reactions might also feel drawn to certain people in ways that defy analysis? That pull you feel towards someone is not unlike the pull of gravity itself. Invisible, relentless, undeniable. When two black holes approach one another, they don't politely exchange business cards. They spiral in, faster and faster, pulled by an irresistible force until they collide and merge, releasing more energy in a fraction of a second than every star in the observable universe combined. And when two people experience a twin soul connection, it can feel exactly like that, a collision of histories, emotions, and futures into a single amplified existence. The universe has always been magnetic. So are we. Another sign emerges in the aftermath of such encounters: awakening. Awakening is a word that gets thrown around in spiritual circles, but here I want to ground it in science. Imagine this. For most of human history, our species believed the Earth was flat, the sky was a dome, and the stars were fixed, lights hung in place for our benefit. Then along came Galileo, Copernicus, Kepler, people who dared to look again. They awakened us to a deeper reality. The same thing happens when you meet someone who feels like a twin soul. Suddenly, what once seemed ordinary about life becomes extraordinary. You begin to question things. Why am I here? What is the purpose of all this? Why does this person's presence peel away my assumptions about myself? That questioning is not mystical, it is cognitive. Neuroscience shows that new emotional experiences literally rewire the brain. Synapses strengthen, new pathways form. Meeting someone who awakens you is, in the most literal sense, an upgrade of consciousness. And with that awakening often comes humility. Just as astronomers, staring into the abyss of the universe, are humbled by the scale of it all, so too are we humbled by the realization that real, soul-stirring love does not shrink us into insignificance. It expands us into context. You don't awaken because someone completes you. You awaken because their presence reminds you that you are always complete. You just forgot. But here's another paradox. Sometimes the people who awaken us are not close. Sometimes they are far away. Which brings us to the next sign. Connection across distance. Think of Voyager 1, launched in 1977. Today it is more than 14 billion miles from Earth, traveling through interstellar space. And yet, even now, it still whispers back to us tiny signals carried on radio waves across the void. A spacecraft smaller than a school bus, and we can still hear its heartbeat across unfathomable distance. If technology can do that, why should it surprise us that the human heart can too? Anyone who has loved someone across an ocean knows this truth. Distance is a stubborn illusion. In physics, fields extend indefinitely. Gravity has no cutoff. Magnetism does not suddenly stop at 100 miles. And human connection, when it is authentic, is no less persistent. So when you feel someone's presence, even when they are far away, when their absence still fills the room, perhaps you are not imagining it. Perhaps you are simply tuning in to the same principle that allows a signal from Voyager, powered by a plutonium battery the size of your fist, to traverse the emptiness of space and still touch us here on Earth. Distance does not diminish connection. It only reveals how deep it runs. And then there is nature itself. We like to think of love and connection as human inventions, but they are written into the natural order. Watch geese flying in formation, each bird drafting off the one in front, reducing air resistance, creating a rhythm that conserves energy for all. Watch two penguins trade roles, one keeping the egg warm while the other braves the frozen sea for food. Watch wolves hunting in coordinated silence, their movements almost telepathic. Nature is filled with twin soul metaphors, because nature is filled with partnership. Consider this. When two atoms of hydrogen meet one atom of oxygen, they form water, something altogether new, something more powerful than the sum of its parts. Without that bond, there would be no oceans, no rivers, no life. So when you find someone whose presence feels elemental, it is not just poetry, it is chemistry, biology, ecology. It is the same story the Earth has been telling since the first molecules danced together in the primordial soup. Nature reminds us that love is not an exception to the laws of the universe. It is their most exquisite expression. Another enigmatic sign lies in memory not just of this life, but of something that feels older. Have you ever met someone new, but felt you had known them forever? Scientists might explain this as déjà vu, a misfiring of neural circuits that confuses the present with the past. But I think there's more to it. In physics, we know that particles carry memory. Electrons remember which slits they pass through in a double-slit experiment. Quantum systems carry histories that shape their behavior. So why not us? When you feel ancient familiarity with someone, it may not mean you literally shared a past life, but it may mean that the echoes of your own lived experiences, your own patterns, your own stories line up so perfectly with theirs that the resonance feels timeless. It is less about reincarnation and more about recognition. The recognition that two trajectories, long in motion, have finally intersected. And when they do, it feels less like a first meeting and more like a homecoming. But the most mysterious sign is this: intuition. Intuition is not irrational. It is pre-rational. It is your brain processing information faster than you can articulate it. When you just know something, it's often because your subconscious mind has pieced together 1,000 subtle cues your conscious mind hasn't caught up with yet. So when you meet someone and just know they matter, or when you sense what they are feeling without words, it may not be magic. It may be the most advanced supercomputer in the known universe, your brain running the most ancient algorithm, survival through connection. And yet, for all the science we can apply, it still feels like magic, which is exactly what science is. The poetry of reality, written in equations but felt in the heart. So, we have walked through these signs: synchronicity, dreams, empathy, energy, magnetism, awakening, distance, nature, memory, and intuition. But let me pause here, because if this speech were only about signs, it would be incomplete. The universe does not merely give us signals, it gives us responsibility. What good is recognizing your twin soul if you do nothing with that knowledge? What good is resonance if it leads only to indulgence, not growth? The true measure of connection is not whether it excites you, it is whether it transforms you, whether it compels you to live not just for yourself, but for something greater. Because here's the ultimate truth: the twin soul is not just about romance. It is about recognition of our shared humanity, our shared cosmos, our shared destiny. To see yourself in another is to glimpse the interconnectedness of all things. And in that glimpse lies the seed of responsibility to care, to act, to build a world worthy of such connection. So here we stand. We've explored synchronicities, dreamscapes, empathic bonds, energy shifts, magnetism, awakening, distance, nature, memory, and intuition. 10 signs that, when woven together, form something greater than their sum, the tapestry of human connection. But what do we do with it? Because if the universe teaches us anything, it is that knowledge without application is wasted potential. The laws of gravity didn't remain mere curiosities. They allowed us to launch satellites, explore planets, and glimpse the birth of galaxies. DNA wasn't just a double helix on paper. It became the key to medicine, agriculture, and understanding what it means to be alive. So, what about the science of connection? What about the twin soul? Let me offer you a thought experiment. Imagine Earth seen from orbit, not as a flat map divided by borders, but as a fragile blue sphere suspended in darkness. Astronauts call this the overview effect, a cognitive shift that happens when you see Earth whole for the first time. Suddenly, national boundaries mean nothing. Suddenly, you realize that the conflicts we magnify on the surface are dwarfed by the greater reality. We all live on a tiny speck, together in the immensity of space. Now, ask yourself, what if the twin soul experience is like the overview effect, but on a human scale? What if meeting that one person forces you to reframe your life, to step back and see the whole picture, to realize that love is not just an emotion you feel in private, but a force that can reorient the trajectory of your existence? Because here's the truth: connection is not a luxury. It is the foundation of survival. Every advancement in our species has come not from isolation, but from collaboration. We invented language to share ideas. We invented cities to share resources. We invented science to share truths about the cosmos. The twin soul, then, is not just about romance or destiny. It is about training ourselves to recognize resonance when it appears, and then applying that awareness to the greater human project. Let's step back further to the stars themselves. When a star dies, it explodes in a supernova, scattering elements across space. Carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, iron, the building blocks of life, all forged in that fiery death. Those elements drift, mix, and eventually form new stars, planets, and organisms. You and I are literally made of stardust. But here's the part that never gets enough attention. Stars do not live and die alone. They exist in clusters, in galaxies, in webs of gravitational connection that span the cosmos. And their lives are intertwined. The death of one enriches the birth of another. The explosion of one seeds the chemistry of countless worlds. So when you meet someone who feels like a twin soul, remember that connection is not separate from the cosmos. It is a microcosm of the very way the universe builds itself through cycles of resonance, collapse, rebirth, and expansion. And just as stars leave legacies of light and matter, so too must we leave legacies of connection and responsibility. Now let's bring it home. We live in an era of extraordinary possibility. Never before has humanity wielded such power to connect, to create, to destroy. We can alter the climate, rewrite the genome, and peer to the edge of the observable universe. Yet, at the same time, wars rage, inequality deepens, loneliness spreads, the paradox grows sharper. How can a species capable of so much wonder cause so much suffering? And here is where the lesson of the twin soul becomes not just personal, but civilizational. Because every great challenge we face, from climate change to poverty to violence, is, at its core, a failure of connection, a failure to see ourselves in others, a failure to recognize that we are entangled, resonant, bound by the same fabric of existence. To meet a twin soul is to glimpse what is possible when connection is honored. It is a rehearsal for what humanity must learn to do on a global scale. So here's my challenge to you. Don't wait for the universe to hand you a perfect connection. Create connections. Cultivate resonance. Be the reason someone else awakens to their own potential. The cosmos did not give you consciousness so you could sit idly by, waiting for destiny. It gave you consciousness so you could participate in the grand experiment of existence. You are not just a passenger on this pale blue dot. You are its steward. You are not just a fragment of stardust. You are stardust that learned to love. And love in all its forms is the closest thing we have to gravity for the soul. It pulls us together, holds us in orbit, and reminds us that we are part of something vast and beautiful. So, the next time you feel that spark of recognition, whether in a lover, a friend, a mentor, or even a stranger, pause. Listen, ask yourself, what is the universe teaching me here? Because the true sign that your twin soul has entered your life is not the butterflies, not the synchronicities, not the dreams. It is the responsibility to grow, to give, to see beyond yourself, and to live in a way that honors the interconnected fabric of reality. If you do that, then you have not just met your twin soul. You have joined the dance of the cosmos itself, and that dance is eternal. Sign 1, synchronicity, when the universe winks at you. Let's be honest, the universe doesn't write emails. It doesn't text you reminders. It doesn't post billboards that say, turn left here, your destiny awaits. Instead, it leaves patterns, whispers, small nudges. You think of a friend, and they suddenly call. You notice the same number over and over again. You encounter the same symbol in places too far apart to be coincidence. Psychologists call this apophenia, the human tendency to see connections where none exist. But what if those connections do exist? Because here's the thing, pattern recognition isn't a bug in the human brain. It's the reason we survived. Our ancestors noticed when certain stars rose in the night sky, it meant the rains were coming. They noticed tracks in the mud, it meant food was nearby, or danger was approaching. They notice cause and effect where other species didn't. Synchronicity, then, may not be magic. It may be the brain doing exactly what it evolved to do, detect order in apparent chaos. And yet, when two lives begin to align, when synchronicities multiply, when the improbable becomes the undeniable, maybe what you're really glimpsing is resonance. Think of pulsars. Neutron stars spinning so fast they emit beams of radiation like cosmic lighthouses. When two pulsars align, their signals overlap. Suddenly, what was once noise becomes a pattern. What was once chaos becomes music. Your twin soul doesn't arrive with trumpets or fireworks. They arrive with synchronicities. The universe doesn't shout, it winks. And your responsibility? To notice, to stay awake in a world that tries very hard to lull you into sleep. Sign 2. Dreams the laboratory of the soul. Every night, your brain runs the most advanced simulator in the known universe. You dream. Neuroscientists tell us dreams help process emotions, test survival strategies, and consolidate memories. In other words, dreams are nature's rehearsal room. But sometimes, dreams feel like more than rehearsal. They feel like messages, meetings, reunions. You wake up with the unmistakable sense that someone was there, someone who mattered, someone who lingers even when you open your eyes. Now here's the science. Studies show that when two people share deep bonds, their physiology begins to synchronize. Heart rates align, breathing rhythms align, even brainwave patterns align. So what if that synchronization doesn't end when you fall asleep? Picture two pianos in the same room. Strike a note on one and the other begins to vibrate. Not because anyone touched it, but because the frequency carries across the air. That's resonance. Now imagine two minds, attuned by shared experience, vibrating across the mysterious bridge of dreams. When you dream of someone, especially with vivid intensity, perhaps it isn't fantasy. Perhaps it's resonance echoing across the subconscious. And here's the deeper lesson. Dreams remind us that reality is not confined to the physical. That meaning can live in symbols, emotions, archetypes. To dismiss them as just dreams is like dismissing the stars as just lights. Dreams are data, emotional data, cosmic data. Your responsibility to listen, to translate, to ask, what is this dream teaching me about myself, about connection, about what matters? Because sometimes the universe speaks most clearly when your eyes are closed. Sign 3, telepathy, the science of silent conversations. People like to romanticize telepathy, the idea that one mind can beam thoughts into another across the void. Science, of course, raises an eyebrow. No evidence supports full-blown telepathy. And yet, we already live in a world where minds communicate invisibly. Your phone, after all, takes the electrical activity of your brain, transformed into sound waves by your vocal cords, into binary code by a microphone, into electromagnetic signals by a tower, and delivers it into the ear of someone halfway across the planet. Telepathy, but with infrastructure. But there's a more natural form too, empathy. Mirror neurons in your brain fire not only when you perform an action, but when you see someone else perform it. When you watch someone stub their toe, you wince not because your toe is injured, but because your brain rehearses the experience as if it were. In relationships, this mirroring deepens. Couples often finish each other's sentences, anticipate each other's needs, or sense emotions without a word being spoken. Is this telepathy? Not in the science fiction sense, but it is communication without speech. Even physics has analogies. Quantum entanglement shows us that particles once linked behave as if distance doesn't exist. When you measure one, the other responds instantly, no matter how far apart. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. So maybe when you just know what someone is about to say, or when you feel their sadness across miles, it's not fantasy. It's resonance operating faster than words. Your responsibility? To use this gift ethically. Silent conversations are powerful, but like any power, they can be distorted. Instead of assuming you know someone's thoughts, use your empathy as an invitation. I sense something, am I right? That's how resonance becomes, not illusion, but truth. Sign 4. Energy when the universe moves through you. Let's demystify a word that often gets misused. Energy. Energy is not a vibe. Energy is the capacity to do work. It powers every heartbeat, every neuron firing in your brain, every thought you've ever had. The ATP molecules in your cells were once forged in the burning core of stars. When you feel alive in someone's presence, that's not woo-woo, that's biochemistry. When you meet a person whose presence sparks you, your dopamine and oxytocin levels surge. Your nervous system ramps up. Your cells literally alter their chemistry in response. That's not just a crush. That's physics, chemistry, biology, and evolution working in symphony. But here's what makes it cosmic. If you could see the electromagnetic field radiating from your heart, yes, your heart emits one, you'd see it extend several feet around your body. When two people interact, their fields overlap, and research shows that when people feel emotionally connected, their heart rhythms actually synchronize. Think about that. Two separate organisms beating to the same invisible rhythm, like two stars caught in orbital resonance. The lesson? Energy is not metaphorical, it's measurable. And when two lives intersect in resonance, the shift you feel is as real as gravity. Your responsibility? To notice how you affect others energetically. You are not neutral. Every interaction is an exchange. Ask yourself, am I amplifying someone's energy or depleting it? Am I a black hole or a star? Sign 5. Magnetism, the pull that defies logic. If you've ever felt pulled towards someone in ways you can't explain, you've experienced magnetism. Now, real magnets don't choose what to attract. Their fields do the choosing. Opposites align, north meets south, because the laws of physics demand it. The same is true for gravity. Mass attracts mass. The Earth doesn't decide to orbit the Sunday. It does so because the universe is wired that way. So when you meet someone and feel pulled beyond logic, beyond preference, maybe it's not mystical destiny. Maybe it's the same principle scaled into biology and psychology. Think about black holes. They bend space-time itself, drawing everything inward. Or think of galaxies spiraling into elegant arms because of the gravitational dance of billions of stars. Magnetism and gravity are the architects of structure in the cosmos. So too with human connection. That pull you feel is the invisible architect of your inner universe, drawing you into new orbits, reshaping your trajectory. But here's the paradox. Magnetism doesn't guarantee harmony. If two magnets are aligned the wrong way, they repel. If two celestial bodies collide too directly, they destroy one another. Connection is not enough. Alignment matters. Your responsibility? To discern. Not every magnetic pull is meant to be followed. Some lead to growth, others to destruction. The cosmos teaches us this: attraction is natural, but balance is wisdom. Sign 6. Awakening the universe hands you new eyes. When Copernicus suggested the Earth revolved around the sun, he didn't just rearrange the solar system, he rearranged humanity's sense of itself. Suddenly, we weren't the center. We were orbiters, part of a system larger than our imagination. That revelation was painful for some, liberating for others, but awakening always feels that way. Meeting a twin soul can be the same. It's not about completing you. It's about shattering the illusion that you were ever incomplete. It's like Galileo's telescope. Once you've looked through it, you can't unsee what's there. On a neurological level, awakening is real. Strong emotional experiences release neuromodulators that literally rewire your brain. Old patterns dissolve, new pathways form. You think differently, see differently, live differently. And here's the cosmic parallel. Galaxies themselves awaken. Gas clouds collapse under gravity. Igniting nuclear fusion, a star is born. And that star illuminates everything around it. So it is with you. The recognition of a twin soul ignites a star within you. Suddenly, your inner universe has more light. And the question is, what will you illuminate with it? Your responsibility? To use your awakening not as a pedestal, but as a lantern. Shine the light, yes, but shine it outward, where others are still stumbling in the dark. Sign 7. Connection across distance gravity doesn't care about miles. In 2015, scientists detected gravitational waves for the first time. Ripples in space-time itself, caused by two black holes colliding over a billion light-years away. That event happened before humans even evolved, yet its echo reached us across the void, moving detectors on Earth by less than the width of a proton. Think about that. Two objects colliding unfathomably far away left fingerprints on our world today. So when you feel connected to someone across miles, maybe that's not so unscientific. Distance is stubborn, but not absolute. Fields extend. Gravity never shuts off. Magnetism doesn't expire at 100 miles. Human connection works the same. Ever notice how you think of someone and moments later they call? Or how absence doesn't weaken a bond, but sometimes strengthens it? That's because connection is not dependent on proximity. It's dependent on resonance. Your responsibility to honor connection even when it's inconvenient. The cosmos doesn't make distance an excuse. Neither should we. Sign 8. Nature, the mirror of connection. Spend time in a forest, and you'll see this truth everywhere. Trees don't compete the way we think they do. Underground, through networks of fungi, the wood wide web, they share nutrients, warn each other of pests, even support weaker trees. Connection is not sentimental. It is survival. Or look at birds in flight. A flock doesn't move as individuals, making separate choices. They move as one organism, bound by invisible rules of alignment and cohesion. Nature is a constant reminder that what we call twin souls is not an exception. It is a continuation of the same principle the cosmos has always followed. Connection creates resilience. The oceans are molecules of hydrogen and oxygen choosing partnership over solitude. Our atmosphere is nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide in delicate balance. Even your body is not one thing, it is trillions of cells in symbiotic dance. Your responsibility? To see connection not as mystical luxury, but as the default state of existence. To walk in nature and recognize that your life is already a collaboration with forces larger than you. Sign 9. Memory echoes beyond the present. Deja vu is a strange thing. Neuroscience suggests it's a glitch your brain mistakenly flags a new experience as familiar. But sometimes it feels deeper. Meeting someone and feeling like you've known them forever isn't just deja vu, it's recognition. Here's the physics. Particles remember. Quantum systems carry histories that shape their future behavior. Electrons in an atom remember their energy states. DNA carries ancestral memory in molecular form. So when you look at someone and feel ancient familiarity, maybe it's not reincarnation. Maybe it's resonance of patterns, trajectories, echoes that finally meet. It's not that you've met before. It's that your histories rhyme. Your responsibility? To honor memory without clinging. The past is a teacher, not a jailer. Recognition is only powerful if it informs the future. Sign 10. Intuition. The oldest intelligence we own. Intuition is often dismissed as irrational, but in truth, it is pre-rational. It is your brain processing faster than language, stitching together fragments of perception into a knowing that defies explanation. Evolution honed it. Our ancestors who sensed danger before it appeared survived. The gut feeling is not magic. It's biology, fine-tuned by millennia. But here's where it gets cosmic. The universe itself is intuitive. Particles don't calculate probabilities. They simply behave according to quantum rules, collapsing into reality when observed. The cosmos doesn't pause to debate. It flows. When you feel intuition around your twin soul, that undeniable sense of this matters, it's not mysticism. It's your most ancient intelligence recognizing a resonance worth trusting. Your responsibility? To balance intuition with reason. Trust the gut, yes, but also engage the mind. The cosmos gave you both. The crescendo. From twin souls to a cosmic responsibility. We've traveled through 10 signs: synchronicity, dreams, empathy, energy, magnetism, awakening, distance, nature, memory, and intuition. Each one feels mystical, yet each one has a counterpart in science, in physics, in biology, in the very architecture of the cosmos. But the question is, what do we do with it? Because to meet a twin soul is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of responsibility. Stars resonate, galaxies collide, planets orbit, particles entangle, and from those interactions, universes are born. In the same way, when two humans truly connect, something larger than either is born. It could be a family, it could be a community, it could be a movement, it could be a world that finally learns that love is not sentiment, it is structure. The cosmos does not waste resonance, neither should we. So when the signs appear, when synchronicities nudge you, when dreams awaken you, when energy floods you, when intuition speaks pause, recognize the gift, and then ask the only question that matters. How will I live differently now that I've seen this truth? Because the real sign that your twin soul has entered your life is not the butterflies. It is the responsibility to live awake, to live connected, to live as if the universe entrusted you with the care of another fragment of itself. And when you do that, you discover the deepest truth of all. The twin soul is not just about two, it is about all. It is about remembering that we are, each of us, atoms of the same cosmic body, stardust that learn to love, and in that love, perhaps, lies the next great awakening of our species. And so, when we talk about twin souls, we are not really talking about destiny or mysticism or fate written in the stars. We are talking about something far grander, the recognition that the universe itself is built on connection, that stars are born in clusters, not alone, that galaxies dance in spirals, not in isolation, that atoms form molecules, and molecules form life, and life forms consciousness capable of love. So when you meet someone who resonates with you so deeply, it feels like the cosmos itself conspired to make it happen. Maybe it did, because you are not separate from the cosmos. You are the cosmos, thinking, feeling, loving, reflecting on itself. The real sign of a twin soul is not the synchronicities, not the dreams, not the magnetism. The real sign is what you choose to do with that recognition. Do you grow? Do you give? Do you live as if you are entrusted with a fragment of the universe itself, embodied in another human being? If you do, then you're no longer just two people finding each other. You become a living reminder of what is possible when the universe remembers its own unity. And perhaps, just perhaps, that is the message we are meant to carry forward. That love in all its forms is not just something we feel. It is the gravity of the soul. It pulls us together, holds us in orbit, and whispers across the ages that in the end, we were never separate at all. So, look up at the night sky. See the stars, the galaxies, the unfathomable distances, and remember, you are part of that story. And every connection you honor, every resonance you choose, writes the next chapter in the grand cosmic tale. After all, we are stardust, but stardust that learned to love.